Morning, guys. We're on Colossians chapter 1, verse 12, and it says, giving thanks to the Father. And so our minds are just on the Father now, and it's the Father who gave the Son, and as we know, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit all work together. And we give thanks for what Jesus has done and what the Father has done. It goes on to say, who has qualified us to share in the inheritance of the saints in the light. And so the Father is also part of our salvation. He's the one who draws us, and He's the one who calls us, and Jesus is the one who saves us. And they all work together. And we need to give thanks for who we are, that we've been called as children into the light, and we inherit what God is. Everything that God has, it says He gives us that inheritance. In 1 Peter 1 verse 4 it says it's an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, unfading, kept in heaven for you. It'll never perish, it'll never disappear. It's an absolute sure inheritance. You know, when you put money in a bank, you never know if the economy is going to crash and you're going to lose that money, but this inheritance will last forever. It's absolutely safe in God's hands. Romans 8 verse 17 says, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and fellow heirs with Christ. And so we become fellow heirs with Jesus. What He inherits, He gives to His children. And so this is why when we consider what we have in Jesus and what we consider what God's given us, we can only but respond by giving thanks. And that's pleasing to God. That's God's will, that we give thanks always. And so as we set our minds even this morning on the things above, we'll remember what God has done and give thanks. In Psalm 119 verse 130 it talks about how we get into the light, because at the end of verse 12 it says we are saints in the light. So just in obviously we get into the light through Jesus and being saved, but just in the context of Colossians here and the emphasis that's been on knowledge, it says in Psalm 119 verse 30, the unfolding of your words gives light. It imparts understanding to the simple. And so as we focus on the Word, which is obviously Jesus, but also on the Bible, and as we understand it, it gives light. And so that's another aspect of how we are saints in the light. But there's a aspect here that we are already in the light. We're not slowly being transformed into the light. Yes, there is a aspect of us being sanctified, where we're slowly becoming more like Christ, but there's also an aspect where we are already light and not darkness. And Ephesians 5 verse 8 puts it like this, for at one time you were darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Not you are coming out of darkness and you are going into the light, but you were and now you're in the light. And that's our position in Jesus, that we are actually light because Jesus is living in us. Verse 13, for He rescued us from the domain of darkness and transferred us to the kingdom of His beloved Son. And that term rescued, or some translations use the word delivered, basically in the Greek means to draw out. So if you consider saving something and rescuing something, let's say, you know, we've had a lot of rain recently and you see an animal drowning, it's one thing to take that animal out of the water and rescue it from being drowned and then leave it on the side. But if you take that animal in and you dry it and you keep it warm and you feed it, then you're drawing that animal to yourself. So that Greek word is more that God has not only just rescued us and left us, but He's drawn us in. He's made us as sons. He's given us an inheritance. He's loved us. And so it's much more than just rescuing. It's being transformed, as the word says in verse 13, to His kingdom of His beloved Son, to the kingdom that Jesus has established for us. He's taken us out of the darkness and transformed us into that wonderful light. And so John, just want to end with John 6 verse 37, All that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never cast out. Okay, just on this morning, just to remember that there's complete security in Jesus. There's an inheritance that can never be taken away from us. This is eternal, it's forever, and will never fade away. I trust you encouraged this morning. Amen.